What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lassercast. Where me and my good friend Danny, uh, what's his last name? Torkel. What the hell? I just woke up. I was up till like 3 last night. Long story. Danny Torkel, Dr. Zay's God. We talk about horror movies and streaming shows. Maybe I am starting to lose my mind a little bit. I think people will be like, yeah, I see some evidence of that. And there's a relatable movie that I could talk about, which we're going to talk about today. It's In the Mouth of Madness from 1994. It is part of the Apocalypse trilogy from the legendary John Carpenter. Danny, I've never seen this movie before. We're going to fucking unpack this shit because I love this movie.
I'm glad because this is a movie that I hold very dear because it's really the tail end of Carpenter as like a major horror director. He has only a few movies that come out after this. It's like Escape from L.A., which is it's something. It is something. He's got the remake of Village of the Damned, which I think comes out in 95. Escape from LA in 96. Vampires, which is pretty kick ass, in I think 98 ish, because I think that movie came out while I was working at the movie theater. So that would make it 98, 99. And then
Mhm.
it's Ghosts of Mars. And then after Ghosts of Mars, he pretty much takes a elongated break, and he would only come back to direct in terms of features uh this weird Amber Heard movie, The Ward. But probably his best movie or ish uh thing that he directed after In the Mouth of Madness is probably his season one Masters of Horror episode, Cigarette Burns, with Norman Reedus and the late Udo Kier, which is fantastic. It is one of the better episodes in the Masters of Horror series. But yeah, like In the Mouth of Madness for me is when I think of Carpenter and I'm wearing the Carpenter VHS, like, stack shirt, and I think of Carpenter's Assault from Precinct 13 was excellent. But if we start at Halloween in 1978, it really goes from 1978 to 1994. It goes from Halloween to In the Mouth of Madness. Yeah, Vampires is cool. Cigarette Burns is a great episode of horror television. Um, but that is the Mount Rushmore horror director that John Carpenter is. It's
Yeah.
70. It's 78 to 94. It's Halloween to In the Mouth of Madness. And you mentioned the Apocalypse trilogy. It is. I just rewatched all three films in the Apocalypse trilogy because Shudder had put them up a couple weeks ago, and I was just going one after another. It was like I don't know what to watch, so fuck it. The Thing. I don't know what to watch. Fuck it. Prince of Darkness. Uh, I love all three of these movies. I think they are individually they are amazing, but when you watch them back to back to back and you see the connective tissue and the connective arcs that Carpenter weaves into them, they are not a trilogy in the sense that like there's no connected characters, it's not the same universes, but thematically it may be the best thematic trilogy of all time. um Prince of Darkness is a movie that doesn't get nearly enough discussion. It is always my choice as Carpenter's most underrated film. It's the one that like I think most people skip. For years, that was the movie in the video store that I didn't watch because I thought it was a vampire movie because Prince of Darkness, I just assumed it was either about Satan. It was like a like Legend, where you were gonna have a Tim Curry-esque like Satan monster in it, or it was gonna be a vampire movie. It is none of those things. And it is something that I feel like has gotten only better with time. And I feel like In the Mouth of Madness is in that same idea of, you even said this to me last night, I think in text messages, like this movie feels like it makes a lot more sense today and it's very prevalent today. Um, Sutter Kane's cult of personality taking over the world and making people go crazy. Yeah, uh, it feels almost too prescient for 2026. But yeah, I fucking love this movie, and I'm glad you liked it too.
Yeah, yeah. I was a little bit worried there that you were gonna basically do my money shot before it was my money shot. Uh, but this movie is maybe the most Lovecraftian movie I think I've ever watched. If not, I mean, I know I always think about when we did Lovecraft Month, and I think about that Stephen King miniseries where they did Crouch End. That's extremely Lovecraftian. Then we did The Color of Space.
Color Out of
That's
Space, yeah.
Color Out of Space. Thank you. And then there's the one with the what was it, The Preacher, and it had what's this? It was by Reanimator guy, and
Stuart
what was the preacher?
Gordon,
Stuart Gordon. Then it had his like two main people, Barbara Crampton and what's his face?
Jeffrey
The
Combs.
thank you. I just woke up, my man. But like those feel like Lovecraft stories. I know you watch more Lovecraft movies, but I'm just watching this and I'm like, holy shit, Carpenter really wanted to tell a Lovecraft movie. This is like so fucking good. Basically,
It's
the whole go ahead.
it's
Good.
such a great Lovecraft adaptation that it's not. Like
Right,
people
right.
think it's an adaptation of Lovecraft. Like I've spoken to people who are like, "Oh, what story was that based on?" And I'm like, "It's not. It's just I think it's Michael DeLuca who co-writes the script, who that name has been pounded into my head. The last two books I've read have been Slash of the Titans about the Freddy versus Jason, the saga to get to Freddy versus Jason, and then I just read my friend Lowell Greenblatt's book, Nightmare Autopsis: A Return to Elm Street, and Michael DeLuca's name comes up because he was a high-ranking guy in New Line, and then he co-writes, I think, in the Mouth of Madness, and Carpenter just he creates this Lovecraftian world. I mean, there's at one point there's literally tentacles, and there's monsters, and there's the the whole idea of time opening up and the old ones coming out. I mean, it, the
Yeah.
Lovecraft estate was probably like, hey, John, but yeah, it's not based on any Lovecraft story. It's just the best adaptation of like Lovecraft's ideas that is
Mm-hmm.
not a direct adaptation of his work.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean there's so much to it. And like you have the creepy children. That feels like a Lovecraftian thing. The children are changing into new things, and all the humans, they lose their minds and then they start to change. And like this crazy church that's in the middle of this secluded town. I mean, this movie, I love this movie so much. You know, it's interesting, Danny. You talked about John Carpenter's career, and then you gave it sort of these bookends. And I feel like that's where our love for horror and stuff comes from, that time period, from Halloween up until this movie. Because this movie, when you start watching it, it has that kind of that 90s feel to it. Like I remember there's a one shot where Styles, this woman, she's with Sutter Kane, and like he's in his little area where he writes, and it's like, oh, this reminds me of Hellraiser. This reminds me of Candyman. So Clive Barker. Then oh, this reminds me of Phantasm. There's that aesthetic, the way things looked, and I think that like we go through the slasher phase, and then when the slashers kind of burn out, we start to get a little bit more creative and weird and obscure. And I feel like that's what this is. And then this is just right before Scream, and I feel like Scream shifts things dramatically with horror after that. But for us, this is like our bread and butter, and I feel like David Weiner in Search of Darkness, I think like his documentary kind of addresses this. Like this movie feels of its time, but it also just feels like this perfect Lovecraft love letter, you know?
Yeah. I think it's really funny that you brought up David Weiner and the In Search of Darkness documentaries, because I was literally thinking about that, because the last time we interviewed him, we talked to him about, you know, why are the 90s because he's now I just got my copy of In Search of Darkness 1995 to 1999,
Yeah.
and obviously he has 1990 to 94 as well. And the one of the things we asked him was like, everybody loves the 80s. Everybody praises justifiably so the quality of like the horror of the 70s, and everybody loves the 80s glut. But then it's like people usually immediately shit on the 90s and then act like Scream saved horror.
Yep.
And we talked to him about how there's all these almost buried treasures, hidden gems in the 90s, because people were burned out by the slashers. You know, Nightmare 5, Halloween 5, and Jason Goes to, not Jason Goes to Hell, Jason Takes Manhattan, all came out in 1989 and are either considered the worst of their franchise or one of the worst of their franchises. Um, Even though I kind of like Nightmare 5. But so, like, you know, what happens in the early 90s is you have, oh, we have to kill off Jason, we have to kill off Freddy, Michael Myers joins a cult, uh, and people were burned out by the slashers. And so horror in and of itself kind of fell off a little bit until Scream kind of made it cool again in 96.
Yeah.
but, but like horror was thriving. Like you have these incredible movies in the
Right.
90s. You know, Silence of the Lambs wins every Oscar in 91. You have Candyman, like you mentioned. You have The Prophecy. You have The Frighteners. You have like these iconic directors. Peter Jackson, who'd go on to win Academy Awards for Lord of the Rings, making The Frighteners in 94, 95. You know, hey, look, Sinners just won 4 Academy Awards. From Dusk Till Dawn came out in 1996, and everybody just looks at Sinners and goes, "Hey, that's a much more historic, you know, historical drama musical adaptation, but with the same basic plot as From Dusk Till Dawn." And yeah, it's like the 90s, I feel like, does get kind of universally shit on,
Right.
especially early, pre-Scream 90s. And In
Yeah.
the Mouth of Madness might be my favorite pure horror movie of the first 5 years of the 90s. Like it's like that and People Under the Stairs, like Craven versus Carpenter, like fighting it
Ah,
out. Um,
yes.
but it, I, there's so much about this movie that I love. It's, I grew up a Stephen King fan. My dad got me into Stephen King when I was very young, and even the way Sutter Kane's name is written, Sutter Kane, Stephen King, it's the same block type. They're really not hiding the fact that he's like a Stephen King surrogate. Uh, there's so much in the early part of the film that's both funny and also like just out there weird. Like all the
Yes.
scenes of Sam Neill walking through the alley
Yeah.
and seeing all this like creepy shit. The scenes in the coffee shop with John Carpenter regulars, in the cast. And I love Sam Neill. I think Sam Neill is such an underrated actor overall, but
Absolutely.
he's also low key a like all-time horror legend. Like he stars
Yes.
in Possession 1980. He's Damien in Final Conflict, The Omen 3. He's in Dead Calm with Nicole Kidman and Billy Zane. Uh, Obviously in The Mouth of Madness. You know, you could even throw, the Jurassic Park franchise is horror adjacent. You know, and he's amazing in the first movie. He's my favorite character aside from, of course, Jeff Goldblum. Uh, but it's just like he's so freaking good in this movie playing uh he's the skeptic. Um and everybody else, and like everything's going crazy around him, and like his descent into madness is so fun to watch. The way the
Yeah.
movie is set up, where like it starts with him being brought into the mental institution. You have David Warner there. uh he's coloring him crosses on himself in
Yeah.
crayon, and then the story kind of flashes back, and it it's like, how did this like skeptical guy end up in a mental institution, and why is
Yeah.
the world ending around him? And I think Carpenter does such a good job of telling that crazy story.
Yeah. And it's like a Lovecraft story where it's like the person talks about how they lost their mind. They tell you about the experience. What's that actor's name that's from Gremlins 2, Smallville? He's in Batman and Robin. That guy. You know who I'm talking about? He's in this.
Yes, he works in the mental institution.
Yeah.
I know exactly. I'm picturing his face. His first name is John. I don't remember his
Yeah.
last
It's
name
just
right now.
because I didn't see his name in the credits. I'm sure it was there, but then I see him and I'm like, oh shit, because he's a really good fucking actor, and he's the voice of the Riddler in Batman the Animated Series. Like clearly he gets connected to comic book stuff. He is
By the
like
way, I
so
have to I have to just pause our conversation for a second. Somebody just texted me. Chuck Norris just died.
wow.
Wow.
Okay, all right.
I
Well,
mean,
that's fucking crazy.
that is crazy. I mean, rest in peace, Chuck Norris. There's going to be a lot of jokes about him meeting the devil now, but
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
I sorry, I just got like shocked by that. I was like, whoa. Did
yeah,
not I
yeah.
knew I saw that he had been hospitalized. So yeah, sorry about that. Rest in peace, Chuck
No,
Norris.
yeah. We have a real time, Lastercast exclusive here. But like, what I was gonna say was that him and David Warner and Sam Neill all are really good at playing sort of like mentally unstable, weird characters. I know David Warner's done that before. I mean, his most iconic roles are kind of like in Star Trek, in the Star Trek franchise, and he's in Titanic. But you see these guys together, and you're like, oh, we're in for some weird shit. We just need Brad Dourif, and then we are set, man. But
How's this for a weird crossover? David Warner is working with Richard Thorne in the original Omen, and gets his head cut off by a piece of glass, and then Sam Neill plays Damien in the final conflict. So you got like that like weird Omen crossover between those two actors.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, it's a great pedigree, but just having Sam Neill, perfect actor for this kind of role, right? So, like, I think really we should kind of treat this as if there's like essentially two parts, because there really is, right? There's the stuff before the town and after the town, and then there's the stuff in the town, right? Now, if we're talking about the stuff before and after the town, then that's very easy to compare it to what's going on in our world, this cult of personality that you're talking about. Like you have to think about like in 1994, there really isn't the internet in the form that we know of it yet. There's not prevalent cell phones where everyone has a cell phone. Screens aren't everywhere. Books actually excite people. The idea of books being adapted into movies and people getting the newest book from the biggest horror writer in the world. That's actually exciting, right? And just in the background, there's like constant news updates that you just kind of overhear often. They don't show an anchor at a desk, but you just kind of hear them, and they're talking about like police being attacked by crazy people. There's all these instances of, people acting violently. It starts at the East Coast and then it spreads, inward towards the center of the country. And that unto itself is such an interesting talking point, because they do say in this movie, they're like, it started at the East Coast So it's kind of like implying that like the East Coast is sort of like ahead of it all. That they're like kind of more cutting edge, and they're reading more there. Because that's the spread of this madness is this guy's writing. And so it's like the people that read are the ones that are getting infected. 1 billion people get infected by a book. That would never fucking happen now at all. You'd have to like do it through TikTok or something to infect that many people. But it's oddly prescient. And I want you to talk about that. But before you do, I just want to bring up one more point. One of the best looking shots in this movie is in this sequence that's not in the town. But there's a bunch of amazing shots in the town. But I love the fucking shot. This is going to sound so weird. But I love the shot where the cop is beating the guy and he's in the middle of the alley. The way that is framed, it's like the violence is right in the center of the frame. It's the alley. And then the lighting is so good in that shot. But there's a ton of great shots in the town, but that's my favorite shot outside of the town. So why don't you tell me what you think about both those points?
I love, yeah, like the idea that we're living through cult of personalities right now. We see this, every day of our lives, and I remember like the excitement. Like I said, like my dad got me into Stephen King, and Athena is a massive reader, and she's a massive Stephen King fan, horror fan. And I remember, like, I have, and Athena has all the Stephen King hardcovers. And like when a new Stephen King book came out, it was like really exciting. And even like, you see this today with things like music. Look at like what happens when Taylor Swift puts out a new album, or like, or concert tickets go on sale. There is this like mad rush to be a part of the zeitgeist, and I think Carpenter, if you go back to, you know, what was happening in the mid '90s, in you had like, Clinton was president, the economy was doing much better, uh, and you know, there were scandals all over, and yeah, I feel like it was, Carpenter's really good at taking what the world is giving him, and then weaving his worlds around it. They Live is 1988. It is like the peak of Reagan, and that movie is so anti everything that is going on in the United States at that point. That is like John Carpenter's like critique of Reagan era 1980s by using sci-fi, aliens, Roddy Piper, and dark sunglasses. I think in The Mouth of Madness is very similar in the way he's looking at now what's happening in the 90s, and almost, yeah, looking at like a preview of what's to come. I mean,
Right. And it's so disturbing, but then the town part kind of alleviates that fear because you stop worrying about things on an apocalyptic level. Like you said, this is part of the Apocalypse trilogy, and it becomes a much more like personalized experience in this village. And there's so many different things I love about this village, the way that things are set up. I mean, I could kind of just list them off and we could just sort of talk about each one. But you have that old lady that works behind the desk in the hotel, and you have that painting where the images in the painting change subtly at first, and Sam Neill doesn't just, it's not just him that loses his mind. There's also this woman, I can't remember the actress name, but like she plays a character named Styles. And we see
Julie
her.
Carmen?
Okay,
Julie Carmen?
thank you. Yeah, so we see her like kind of steadily lose her mind in this village. Then the old lady, we got to bring up the fact that she's like kicking someone behind the desk in the hotel lobby. And at one point, we cut to like her being chained to this old naked man. That's one of my favorite parts. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I love it. Um, then you have fucking Vigo the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2. I can't remember seeing him in any other movie, and I was like, holy shit, there's Vigo.
He's
And he
in the
runs up.
original Die Hard. He's one
Oh,
of the German terrorists in the original Die Hard, also.
okay, okay. I kind of thought that actually would have been the case. But yeah, that's okay,
And from
perfect.
everything I've heard, he was a god awful human being and a terror to be around if you weren't like in a set with him. Um, yeah. But also the old lady and that like inn that she runs is called the Pickman, and that's obviously an ode to Lovecraft. Uh, with like Pickman's model and everything.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and obviously like Hobbs End is in New Hampshire. Lovecraft is Rhode Island. So it's same geographic like northeast area. And Stephen King, of course, is from Maine, so it just works out perfectly. Like they just take over basically the entire northeastern part of the country.
Yeah, and I love that sequence so much. I know I keep talking about this church, but I just think that's like the most Lovecraftian thing where there's this sort of like ancient looking church in this like small, East Coast town. It's just so weird. I just love the image of the church there. And then the inside of the church is so cool too. And then there's this great fucking sequence where Vigo the Carpathian's looking for his son. He thinks that Sutter Kane has him. They drive up to the fucking church and we see the son inside the church. The doors keep opening and closing. And then at one point, Sutter Kane is the one that's in the doorway as opposed to this guy's son. And then he pulls a full Mr. Burns and releases the hounds on these guys. I was like, I love this movie. I was all in by that point. That's sort of the first 25% of the movie, and we've gotten there. Um, like just do you know the actor that plays Sutter Kane? Do you know his name?
Yeah, Jurgen Prochnow.
Okay,
Uh,
so
he's
good.
fantastic. I love him in this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like he has these great moments with in that he's in this like room in the church with the door behind him is like pulsing with like, and it's this great effect of like the door is like just like oozing and pulsing behind him, and it's like, oh, the old ones are coming, and he's holding, and I love this idea. The the idea that like his books are like he has to keep writing, or else the old ones will come back. And again, to bring up Wes Craven, one same year, 94, Wes Craven's New Nightmare comes out. And the plot of that movie is they have to keep making Freddy movies because Freddy Krueger, the character, was how they prevented this demon from entering the world. And now that Freddy's dead, the demon is coming out of the world. So they need to hurry up and make a new Freddy movie so that the demon gets held back. So the idea of like an artist creating, like keeping their fiction going as a way to prevent actual horror from breaking out into the real world, that's in the Mouth of Madness. Like that's what Sutter Kane is doing. He's like, this is the book that's gonna, once I'm done with this book, nothing will be able to hold them back. And then as the background of our, discussion, like they literally rip through the pages. And I just, there's something awesome. And I've always loved stories like this where there's characters are living through, and also like again there's a scene in this movie where Julie Carmen takes the manuscript of In the Mouth of Madness and she's reading what Sam Neill is doing. She's like literally reading the script while he's doing it. And there is a scene in New Nightmare where they are reading the script of Wes Craven's New Nightmare as the events are happening. I'm just realizing how similar these two movies are that I love
Yeah.
from probably my two favorite horror directors of all
Yeah.
time. And it's just wild that they came out at basically the same point.
So let me ask you this, Danny. Did the Friday, I mean, not Friday 13th, Jesus Christ, Nightmare on Elm Street remake, did that come out before 2016?
Oh yeah, that was like 2010.
I'm just saying, man, maybe that fucking demon has gotten out because we haven't had a Freddy movie in a long time, right? And I mean, look at our world right now. Sutter Kane has definitely stopped writing books. So,
Yeah.
shit's been getting out, man. Okay, so let's talk about the imagery before we kind of go into deeper stuff like meta stuff because we're going to talk about meta stuff. But this is rife with Lovecraftian imagery. The woman Styles at one point, she gets exposed to the book, like you said, but she gets her face like put right in it directly, and it's in this like disturbing, awesome, weird, sensual scene where it's her and Sutter Kane, and he's talking about. He's basically like dumping exposition, but I don't give a fuck. He's explaining everything to her. I don't care. It's just such a fun movie. There's a great fucking image in that sequence where she's like, sort of like, I don't know, like almost like hypnotized and swaying in front of him. And then she like puts her hands on him, like almost as if they're kissing, but they don't kiss. And then he's got like a full on Voldemort, but creepier on the other side of his head. I love that. It's so disturbing. Then there is like the part that maybe is the most disturbing to look at in the entire movie. I don't know. You tell me if you can think of worse in the movie, but he's Sam Neill's in the car with her, and they pull over on the side of the road. She comes out of the car, but you see her head first. I'm like, oh, this is going to be some kind of weird contortionist shit in a second. And needless to say, it kind of reminds me of the Thing because it's all about like a human body not being in the right form, like not what we're expecting. And so, like, she's crawling on all fours, but her head is upside down. And then, like, she like flips over, and her head stays the same way. I mean, when I say her head is upside down, it's like her head
Yeah.
is up, but it's her body and the head aren't like matched up the right way.
It's funny you brought it. I didn't. That's another thing I didn't really think about as like a connective tissue between the three Apocalypse movies. They all feature. Obviously, The Thing is all about uh, bodies going in directions they're not supposed to. The defibrillator scene. The spider head. You got to be fucking kidding me. That whole scene. Uh, Prince of Darkness has a few really fucked up moments. There's a scene where a guy is outside of the church. He's one of the people who are in the church, and he leaves to like go on a date, and he's killed. And then he's like talking to them with this demonic voice, and his body is turning to like bugs, and his body just like breaks apart and collapses. And then like the woman who gets full on like possessed and
Yep.
full of like all the green liquid goes into her, and she becomes like like she's trying to pull Satan out of the mirror. And then this movie, there's that scene. There's the kid on the bike who becomes the old man. There's all the kids who become distorted versions of themselves. That scene I remember creeping the shit. The contortionist scene.
Yep.
That scene scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I'm not good with like that stuff. That was it Channel Zero who had a character called like Pretzel Jack, and it was this like they like basically hired this contortionist to just do creepy shit on the show, and it just freaks the shit out of you.
Yeah, that's the show that would definitely have that, or that or American Horror Story, right? But like this movie has so much good imagery to pair up with like Lovecraftian ideas, for future filmmakers. Like there's so many great sequences, like set pieces. Like even just Sam Neill driving in his car driving away, then the road starts to turn red and he's back in the center of town. That's such like a Lovecraft kind of thing, but it's so good. And also, I've been watching this show From on MGM right now, and it's a horror show, and it's like really fucking good, and it takes place in a small town. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely getting vibes of from this too. Like I think that might be, and this might be an inspiration for that. Go ahead.
I've made a point. I've made this point several times in the years that we've been doing this channel. I I'm born. I am the most city person in the world. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I live and work in the city. I love, I'm even to this day in my almost mid 40s, fascinated when I go into Manhattan and just looking up at the skyline and being like, wow, I can't fucking believe I live here.
Yeah,
And I went to college in upstate New York. I went to college in a very rural town, and it's just not for me. And
yeah,
small town America in horror, I find extra creepy.
yeah,
And I think it's because I'm a city kid. Like, I think that, if there's one house and then the next house isn't for like a few, you have to walk to the next house, it just leaves so much empty space for creepy ass shit to happen and
yeah, yeah,
scary shit to happen. And yeah, like I think there is something, you keep bringing up the small town like Hobbs End, and a lot of Lovecraft stuff take place in these small New England villages and places. It's why when a horror movie takes place in the city, it's jarring. And like sometimes a franchise will do that as a way to like shake things up. Obviously, Scream 6 did it, Evil Dead Rise did it. And
yeah,
I think those were good entries in their franchise because they were so, there's that jarring idea of like, oh, I'm walking around surrounded by thousands of people, but I could still be caught and killed by the bad guy. That's fucked up. Like, Halloween 1978 tells you all you need to know about, living in a small town, right?
yeah.
The boogeyman shows up.
Right, right. But you know what? This type of movie, though, can work in a town and it can work in a city because it's the idea that you can't trust reality. You can't trust what you're experiencing with your senses. And this movie has birthed multiple memes. I think I just saw this movie for the first time now, like yesterday, right? But I've always seen the fucking shot of Sam Neill screaming on the bus when he's left the village and he's coming back. And I think it's so fucking funny that what leads to that sequence is that he's having a dream and Sutter Kane is talking about how he is like God basically. And he's like, "Oh, did you know my favorite color was blue?" And then like Sam Neill like wakes up and everything is blue. I just thought that was so funny. I was like, "Oh, that's what leads to the scene of him screaming on the bus." Then
He's also screaming on the bus because he realizes that the kid who gives him the manuscript is going to grow up to be Anakin Skywalker.
fucking Hayden Christensen's on that bus.
No, Hayden Christensen is the kid on the bike who gives him directions.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Okay. Okay. I remember. Yeah, the kid shows up after he gets out of the village. I gotta go back and rewatch that now. It's on Tubi, so it's free to watch. But then the other fucking meme that I see all the time is Sam Neill in his mental institution gown or whatever clothing, sitting in the movie theater with a smile on his face. I've seen that meme many times, and I fucking love that too. I was like, oh, he's watching the movie. And it's literally him on the screen. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's just, and you mentioned the word earlier. It it was like meta before we knew really what meta was. Uh, Again, Wes Craven's New Nightmare came out the same year. Like Scream gets all the credit for meta horror when, Craven did it 2 years earlier, and I would argue maybe better in New Nightmare. And Carpenter's doing it here. Uh, the idea, like, he goes back to stop the book from being published, and Charlton Heston is like, "What are you talking about? You delivered this manuscript to us. It's sold out immediately. The movie's coming out." And then he goes to the movie theater, and there's the fucking, uh, you know, uh, movie theater thing that says "In the Mouth of Madness," and he's sitting in the movie theater alone with crosses all over him, giggling. We're eating popcorn. That's also
Yes.
my, yeah.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
it's funny because there's two other movies. You've already referenced one of them. There's two other Sam Neill movies that I feel like are Lovecraftian, at least in tone. Maybe not the subject matter, but Possession is just this weird, fucking amazing movie. Disturbing and jarring, and you feel like you're losing your mind watching it. It's got a tentacle creature in it, you
Yes.
know. And then I would say that Event Horizon, even though it kind of leans more towards the demonic and like hell, Lovecraft isn't necessarily about hell. It still has that kind of Lovecraft feel of like losing your mind, like there being some sort of like greater evil that like we can't really deal with because it's too much
Yeah.
for us.
The idea of
So
like the old ones, or the elder gods, like being in charge and
yeah,
opening up a doorway to another world where there's these beings that we can't comprehend. Yeah. The
I mean, and
fact that I
Sam Neill.
mentioned that Sam Neill is like low key a horror icon and I didn't say Event Horizon, that means I'm losing my mind. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Right, but like look at this fucking guy. He's in these three fucking banger movies. Like this is an apocalypse trilogy unto itself, right? Possession, Event Horizon, and this movie. It's like he's in these three fucking movies. He's like the main guy in two of them. It's
Yeah.
Jesus. Wow. Okay. This is my last thing I want to bring up, and then you can bring up whatever else you want to. But like, I love the sequence when Sam Neill finally interacts with Sutter Kane, and Sutter Kane rips open his face, and it's sort of like peeling back. It's very similar to there's a sequence in the beginning where Sam Neill is like peeling this piece of paper on this poster that's on the wall in New York City. It's very similar to that, and it's also kind of like someone ripping a page in a book. And then essentially he's ripped open the story, and there's text on the wall, and there's a big hole as if someone like stabbed a book. Then we get these true like Lovecraft monsters coming after them, and there's this gigantic fucking tunnel that Sam Neill has to run through to get out of this town. And I was like, this is the most Lovecraft part of this whole fucking movie. And it's like so intense that you're like really grateful that he just sort of wakes up outside of the village versus like if the monsters were to get him. I love the way that scene looks, and it's just like
Almost
so
like kaleidoscopic too. Like the
right.
room is spinning as which reminded me of Event Horizon also, like the kaleidoscopic thing.
Yeah,
And I don't know, did you see the original Hellraiser?
of course.
Okay,
Dude.
because the monsters that are chasing him look very similar to like the monsters that are chasing Kirsty as she's like running out of hell at the end of
Yeah.
Hellraiser.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've only seen Hellraiser. I've only seen the first two, and then the remake or whatever. That's it. I haven't seen any of the other sequels, but yeah, I love the first Hellraiser. Actually, I love the second one even more. But whatever, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Is there anything else you want to say about this movie? Because I fucking love it. I would gladly go back and watch more of it.
No, I think we said. I mean, it is. Like I said, I always look at In the Mouth of Madness as the bookend to a 15 to 16 year Carpenter run, which is almost unmatched ever by any, obviously, he's a horror, Francis Ford Coppola did The Godfather, The Godfather 2, Apocalypse Now, all within a 6-year span. Uh, but for Carpenter to go from like Halloween, Escape from New York, The Fog, Christine, Starman, uh, Prince of Darkness, They Live. Uh, I'm probably missing something. And then, yes, he makes like Memoirs of the Invisible Man in like 1992. But then to come back after that dud with this movie, and have it be like the finale of that Apocalypse trilogy, it's just an incredible run of all-time greatness. I just didn't mention The Thing, by the way, 1982. Just skipped over that one. So yeah, it's like that's how great it's on my shirt. I should just have read my shirt. But like this is just the greatest run that
Yeah.
anybody ever went on.
Yeah.
And yes, he makes some movies after this. Some of them are okay, some of them are good, some of them are Escape from LA. And yeah, it's just like I always have a soft spot for this movie, just in the sense that it's I grew up with Stephen King, and this is like a Stephen King surrogate making the world go crazy. It's great Sam Neill. The effects are off-putting and unsettling. The score is great in this movie. We didn't even mention that. The music is really good.
Agreed.
It's like jam-packed with like stars. Like Charlton Heston just shows up and is in the movie for a few seconds. Uh, yeah, it's one of my, every time I watch it, I love it. And weirdly, and I think that after just rewatching the Apocalypse trilogy again in order, I think it might be, of those three, it would probably rank third for me, because Prince of Darkness has moved so far up for me. Because every time I watch Prince of Darkness, I feel like it was so ahead of its time, and it's so much more unsettling now than it was the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
Um, and then, and the other thing is, and this is all of Carpenter's movies, there's always some like underlying, really funny comedy that goes along with the commentary. Like Sam Neill's hilarious in this movie. Like,
Yes.
yes, it's not a comedy, and I don't think he's trying to get like big chuckles from the crowd, but like there is some level of humor in watching somebody go so far down the rabbit hole of insanity, and he's great at it.
Right.
And like that scene at the end in the movie theater is funny. The scene of him waking up on the bus and screaming while there's a blue filter over the fucking camera is patently funny.
Right.
So,
Right.
and
Well, the thing that's patently funny about that is you have this skeptic, you have this straight man who's like, this is not real. This is everyone is doing some kind of like crazy promotional stunt. This is just a scam. And the humor is how fucking ridiculous and insane the world gets, and then him trying to like justify it. And it just gets more and more insane as it goes on. That's what's funny.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love it. And it that's how the best horror movies, the best movies are the ones that they don't feel like they are stuck in a time period. They feel like they are evergreen. And this movie, even though it's about a book driving people crazy, you made the point about how like people don't read as much. I said I read 2 books earlier. I own the books, but I listened to them on Audible. Um, so like I wasn't even physically reading them.
Right.
But the idea of like books driving people crazy, it's not even the books. It's just ideas. Ideas drive people crazy. I'm it's evergreen.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth today? So Danny, usually when we get together, you take the lead and you do all the plugging. But I think that today I'll do the plugging first, okay? So
Yeah.
so the reason why we did this episode, I believe, is because you saw that Mike Bongiorno on Pop Culture Man Children, our friend Mike Bongiorno covered this movie, and then we're like, hey, we should cover it too. Great idea. I actually was just on Pop Culture Man Children. If you like mine and Danny's conversation about this, check out Mike's conversation about this movie. I think he was on the show with his brother covering this movie. But then besides that, with Pop Culture Man Children, I'm on there too. We recorded 2 episodes recently. The one of the 2 is out, and it's basically me and Mike talking about David Lynch's Masterclass, which is available on YouTube. You can just watch it free on YouTube. So we're talking about David Lynch. As you know, I love fucking David Lynch. We talk about that quite often on this channel. And then we just covered Twin Peaks: The Return, which you can find on our channel. So that's from like last week. So check that out. But Danny, if you want to keep going with the plug-in.
We originally came on today. You originally thought that we were covering Monarch: Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV. We are covering that show, just not today because I went out drinking last night and I forgot to watch the episode. I'm gonna watch episode 4 of Monarch, which Pete has thoughts about, and then we will record our review of that very soon. But you can check out our reviews of episodes 1, 2, and 3 so far on the channel. Like Pete said, Twin Peaks: The Return, we just did a long discussion about that. Not getting into what we think was going on, just kind of more celebrating Twin Peaks and our love of David Lynch. And aside from that, I think we have like a review of Scream 7 up on the channel. I am going to be doing some book reviews coming up. I've read like 3 really good horror books that I want to just wax poetic about a little bit and shout out the authors of. So I'll be doing some book reviews coming up. And Ready or Not 2 is out in theaters now. So I can't wait to go see that. I think I'm going tomorrow with Charlotte and Athena to see that. So you can expect at least a short review of that coming up very soon.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. Okay. We got to go see that fucking movie. I'm actually really excited about that one. Yeah, guys. So if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. Please subscribe. We could always use some more fuel to share our chaos with the world. And if you like our slimy tentacles, we will bring them back for you next time.